So in the last session, or in the last class, Lord Krishna was mentioning the attitude with which we are to go through the operations of living our life. And that attitude makes all the difference. For it's a very remarkable state indeed. And if perchance you keep on maintaining that state of mental equipoise while operating in the world and going through your functions, that particular state of mental balance and equipoise would lead you eventually to settle down in your divine nature. So in a very innocuous way, Lord Krishna had presented that to state that in a very innocuous, simple manner he has mentioned, just maintain in your experiences of pain and pleasure, gain and loss, victory and defeat, a state of mental balance, a mental equipoise. And this particular state of mental equipoise is a state of yoga, is a very important factor in the living and the practice of the yoga of action or karma yoga, which he will be elaborating in the next subsequent verses. So therefore, maintaining such an attitude, a balanced frame of mind, Sukha dukkhe samaya krutva. Keep on living and functioning and doing what you have to do. So by and by, when you go through this process, you are training yourself to maintain your balance, your equipoise. And the state of mental balance or equipoise will enable you subsequently to be poised in the Atman, which is your divine nature. So now, in the next verse, he is further going to elaborate on this science. So he says in verse number 39, Esha te abhihita sankhe buddhiri yoge tu imam sruno buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. Esha te abhihita sankhe. Thus far, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, I have mentioned Sankhya, the knowledge. Sankhya means the knowledge, wisdom, the necessary wisdom, knowledge that you need with respect to your divine status as the Atman. Samyak kyayate anaya iti. So the good knowledge with respect to your Atman. And in that he had mentioned that your true self as the Atman is indestructible. That is the knowledge which I had given earlier, that it never is ever born, never dies, never changes, never mutates itself, and is constant, is the same, and is indestructible. Though you have mentioned that you will be killing the people indeed, But really speaking, the Atman as such is indestructible. It is not subject to death, no birth. So therefore, you need not be worried over the nature of the Atman. It is unborn, undecaying, everlasting. So in this manner, he had given this knowledge, a basic knowledge about your true self. Because the foundation of religion, or the foundation of true religion, if you put it the other way, is primarily based on the understanding of this knowledge of your Atman nature, of your divine state, which is your true nature, your divine status. And a little bit of knowledge with respect to that has been imparted to you in this section. That is why it is called, this chapter is referred to as the text dealing with, the chapter dealing with wisdom knowledge. The wisdom knowledge with respect to the nature and the character of the Atman, and the wisdom knowledge with respect to the way you are to function and perform your life in the world. Because you cannot ignorantly live your life, ignorantly go about functioning. Even the science of karma yoga, the basis of which is basically wisdom. You need a wisdom knowledge, because karma yoga is not social work, not in the least, as it has been touted in certain sections. It is not social work at all. But it is a spiritual science for which a certain amount of knowledge is needed, and how that knowledge is how to convert action which binds you into an action which liberates you, which takes you away from human bondage. That science is said to be karma yoga. And in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 3rd chapter, Lord Krishna has very clearly enumerated that for the good people in the world, there are only 2 ways of living. For the good people, we are not talking of the others. For the good, noble, righteous people, there are only 2 ways of living. And he said in verse number 3 of chapter 3, I believe, Asmin loke dvita nishta pura prokta mayanaga jnana yogena sankyanam karma yogena yoginam. So that means from ancient time onwards, I have revealed 2 ways of living, 2 good ways of living for the human race. And one is jnana yogena sankyana, jnanameva yoga, that is a knowledge discipline. So there is one component which is called the exclusive knowledge discipline. So jnanameva yoga, that is knowledge itself is a discipline. Because why is that knowledge alone is a discipline? The reason being that your initial problem was ignorance. So the counter opposite of ignorance is knowledge. Ignorance is said to be avidya, and its counter opposite is said to be vidya or knowledge, and therefore it's a knowledge discipline. So therefore, the knowledge discipline is maintained and practiced by the hermits of the world. Jnana yogena sankyana, karma yogena yogina. So these are 2 ways of operating and living life. One way is meant exclusively for the hermits who live a life as a hermit, having withdrawn from normal life, they live a life as a recluse. So for those people, there is a separate discipline called the jnana nishta, which is a knowledge discipline. And then for the rest of humanity, who are still actively operating and functioning in the world, and who have yet to get themselves, who have yet to obtain dispassion, total dispassion. When I use the word dispassion, total dispassion, for those people who are still, who have to operate in the world and who have got still worldly duties to function, operate, to go through, and karmas to be done for these people, karma yogena yogina. So karma yoga itself is a discipline. So therefore, now he says, so far I have mentioned to you briefly the knowledge discipline in a brief manner about the Atman. And now, Buddhir Yoge to Imam Srunu. Now may you understand, henceforth, for the science of Karma Yoga, may you listen to the wisdom knowledge pertaining to Karma Yoga, because Karma Yoga also requires a certain measure of wisdom and wisdom knowledge. So that is, but nevertheless, for both people, the same knowledge is there, for both of them. But for Karma Yoga, there is a separate knowledge itself by which one performs Karma Yoga. So, Buddhir Yoge to Imams Sunu, may you listen to it, O Arjuna. Because Karma Yoga has got 5 components in its execution. And this is not clearly understood by people. And I have elaborately discussed this earlier in other sections. But nevertheless, at this present moment, it will suffice that I just mentioned this much, as per the way Krishna is going through, that may you listen to the science of Karma Yoga, which I am going to impart to you now. Buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. So Buddhya yukto, so the basis of Karma Yoga is Buddhi Yoga, that is to say, understanding. Or wisdom knowledge. Wisdom knowledge is the basis of Karma Yoga. And that wisdom knowledge I am going to impart to you now. Buddhya yukto yaya, by this knowledge, Partha or Arjuna, karma bandham prahasyasi. You will overcome the bondage of action. Karma bandham prahasyasi. So, karma itself is a source of bondage. So long as you have karmas to do, you will have to operate in the world. So long as you have karmas to do, you've got to come back into this world again. So there's one of the factors which brings you back into this world, karma bandha. So therefore, the science of Karma Yoga is going to teach you how to perform your actions so that you do not bring about fresh karmas into your life in the current operation of living life. So that is to say, while executing and performing your current actions, you see to it that you exhaust or finish or complete your current actions, your current karmas, but while doing so, you must have that ingenious wisdom not to cultivate, not to acquire future karmas. That is the secret about it. So on one side, the present karmas are being executed by you. Normally, an ignorant man, when he executes actions, while executing actions out of ignorance, spiritual ignorance, he cultivates and acquires new karmas. And these new karmas will propel him into the next life. And on, it's a ongoing process. But now, with his newfound wisdom, you will be able to live in such a manner that you exhaust your current actions, your current karmas are being worked out by you. But at the same time, while working out and executing your current functions and karmas, you have the wisdom not to acquire new karmas. That's the whole science about it. So that by the time the end of your lifespan has come, well, you are ready to get enlightened. And you're ready not to come back into this world again. You're ready at that point when your time has come for your departure. You will find that you have completed your current actions very well. so that you will not be easily propelled into another life. There could be, but in the meantime, if you get enlightened too, wonderful. So therefore, karma bandham prahasasi, by this process, you will overcome your bonded actions. It's like bonded labor. Each person is coming into this world assigned with bonded labor. He has to go through a certain quota of actions. And you will live in this body until that particular quota of actions are done and completed by you. And these quota of actions, which you are supposed to do from birth to death, is your karmas. You cannot escape them. No one can escape his karmas of this life. And everyone will have to go through them. But in the spiritual knowledge or the spiritual science of yoga of action or karma yoga, you perform these actions with such a wisdom that you not only complete your current karmas for this lifetime, but at the same time, you do not acquire new karmas for your future life. That's the whole science behind it. So that's why he says, karma bandham, so you will overcome them. Then he says, Neha, in verse number 40, Neha abhikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate solpamasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat na iha abhikramanasho asti. In the science of karma yoga or the yoga of action, there is no loss of effort. There is no loss of effort. Na abhikramanasho. So when you begin an action, generally what happens is, unless you complete it, the action becomes incomplete. But as far as the science of karma yoga is concerned, the moment you begin doing it, from the time that you begin operating as a karma yogin, and from that time onwards, there is no loss of effort, because you're going on the right lines, correct lines. You're going on the correct lines. So therefore, however little you proceed, there is no loss of effort. There is no loss of effort. Na abhikramanashosti. And pratyavayo na vidyate. Generally, in other forms of actions which people do, they may do actions which bring about contrary results if they are not done properly. If an action is not done properly, especially in certain religious actions, when they are not done properly, it may give you an opposite result, a different result. So such a situation is not here. As far as the science of yoga of action or karma yoga is concerned, there is neither a loss of effort. So whatever effort that you put in is a good effort indeed. And at the same time, there is no pratyavayo na vidyate. At the same time, there are no wrong results which may accrue out of this. Because in certain religious actions which people do, unless all factors are fulfilled in that, you may get a wrong result. So such a situation is not here. All that you need is two things: a proper understanding of the science, and then at the same time to peacefully execute it. That's all. So pratyavayo na vidyate solpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Solpam api asya dharmasya. Even a little practice, a little maintenance of this dharma. This dharma is said. So the word dharma is used. Dharma means the appropriate, the right spiritual way of life. Huh? So it's a spiritual, now it's a spiritual way of life. So this way of life, trayate mahato bhayat, as you keep on living this karma yoga in your life, it's a very profound process, because for the householder, for an active man living in the world, karma yoga is the most important spiritual discipline. If this is neglected, everything is neglected. If this is not understood, everything else is misunderstood. Nothing works. Because the man living in the world, who's operating in the world, either as an individual or with a family, he has got his karmas to go through, and these karmas are being converted into as a spiritual discipline. So therefore, they are, and it's a very primary form of spiritual discipline. Everything else follows this. So therefore, trayate mahato bhayat, and it protects you from mahato bhayat, from great fear indeed. And what is that great fear? Trayate, great fear. The great fear of coming back into this world. Everyone is apprehensive as to where they will come back, how they will come back, in what manner they will come back. Huh? Already you know very well that while living your life, current life itself, what a situation you are going through, what responsibilities and functions you are going through. It's a miracle that you have survived thus far in the operation of living your life, in spite of all the factors which come your way in life. In fact, that is why when a baby is born, how does the baby come into this world? It comes with a good weeping. It weeps and comes. So when the baby comes into the world, it weeps and comes. Why does it weep and come? Because it knows it's coming into a terrible place. Now the funny thing is, when the baby comes into the world, it weeps and comes with a good cry. And when the baby cries, everybody around is happy. In case the baby does not cry, then you give it a little pat on its bottom. And if it still does not cry, then you cry. The idea is that whenever somebody is born, someone has to cry. Either the baby cries or you cry. Then at the same time, there are many unshed tears which you go through in your own lifetime. Huh? Only you know how many unshed tears you have gone through. And then after that, at the time of death too, you're apprehensive as to where you are going. Huh? Will things be all right? Of course, if you have lived your life in a good way as an honorable person, to the best of your ability, huh? And as a being, and led your life in as much as in a good way, manner indeed, you will have no need to fear about where you are going and what will happen to you. That fear need not be there. You can happily exit from this world. When the time has come, you can peacefully close your eyes and depart. No problem. Provided you have been a good boy or a good girl. That's all. That's all that is needed. So therefore, Mahato Bhayat, it's a very fearful, this world is a very fearsome place for you to come and live. Where am I? What am I doing here? Huh? You've got so many karmas to go through. So that is why in the ancient days, there was a sage called Sukha Maharishi. Sukha was his name, Sukha Maharishi. And he was he was born wise. So now when he was there, when the time has come for him to enter into this world, for his birth to take place, the baby was taking its own time. He was born wise. So it was asked of him, why are you, the time for arrival in this world has come. Huh? Why are the womb of your mother, why are you taking your time? And the baby said, this is a story, the baby said, I am afraid to come into this world. Because it had foreknowledge. It had foreknowledge. So I'm afraid to come out. That's why I'm taking my time. So therefore, trayate mahato bhaya, from this fearsome world indeed. Huh? Huh? This dharma of karma yoga. So the practice of karma yoga is a great dharma indeed. It's a great dharma, a dharmic or right, a good way of living, spiritual way of living life. Huh? So it protects you, trayate, protects you from not coming back into this world. Then he continues this. In verse number 41. Vivasayatmika buddhir eka iha kurunandana bahushaka hi anantascha buddhyo avyavasayinam. Vivasayatmika buddhi. The well-resolved mind, buddhi, well-resolved mind of the buddhi, understanding. Eka iha kurunandana. It is only one indeed. So once you have resolved yourself, understood everything, the science of living, and made a resolve to yourself about the way to live life, having the divine in your mind, having the divine in your mind, that the divine and I are one, we are non-separate. We are non-separate. So once you have this understanding, then along with this understanding, you keep on operating in the world, going through your yoga of action, karma yoga, going through your karma yoga of action or karma yoga. So this nischayatmika buddhi, and this is only one indeed, ekaha. Ekaha, because your mind is now focused on Brahman, the divine, on Brahman, which is your divine nature. You're focused on that ekaha, or Kuru Nandanaha. So member of the Kuru dynasty. So Kuru Nandana means the darling of the Kuru dynasty. So here, in various ways, Krishna is addressing Arjuna. And here one of the names that he is using is Kuru Nandana, the beloved of the Kuru dynasty. So this well-resolved intellect, a well-resolved intellect is based on having well understood the science. That is only one indeed. So this intellect with a good understanding, ekaha, it is one only, because your mind is focused towards Brahman, your divine nature. So keeping that in view, just like in the ancient days, in the high seas, when the sailors go across the ocean, they have the mariner's compass. So with the help of the mariner's compass, which is pointing in the northern direction, they're able to navigate the high seas, the oceans. So because the whole vision is in one direction. So here also, you're keeping your vision in your divine nature, the Atman, which is Brahman. You keep on operating your life. You negotiate the ocean of life, because this is the ocean of life, which its waves and all their turbulence and weather patterns and storms and cyclones, which you may have to confront. But nevertheless, in all of these situations, You maintain your focus of attention well resolved in your divine nature. So, Vivasayatmika buddhi eka iha kurunandana bahushaka hi anantoscha buddhyo avyavasayina bahushaka hi anantascha. As far as the others are concerned, their mind is scattered. Bahushaka. The anantascha. Because the others have got various other types of wishes, desires, ambitions to fulfill, and wants to fulfill. Bahushaka hi anantascha, it's of innumerable. If you ask any, so anantas buddhiyo avyavasayinam. For whom? Avyavasayinam, for those people whose mind is not firmly resolved in the Atman. Atman is only one. And this Atman, which is one, is everywhere, uniformly present in everything and everywhere. And that Atman is said to be Brahman because it is uniformly present everywhere. And you are definitely, you have got a very clear understanding that you are it itself. So your mind is well, your understanding and your mind is rooted in this. Is rooted in this, which is one indeed. So you don't swerve from that. You don't deviate from that. While the others who don't have this wisdom, knowledge, this understanding, they are Bahushakai Anantascha. They have got innumerable other desire patterns which they have to engage and go through in order to fulfill them. For whom? Avyavasayina, for those people who don't have this definite, conclusive understanding. So therefore, the first thing that a person requires in the world is to acquire this proper understanding which has been given in the Upanishads and also in the Bhagavad Gita, an allied text which will give you this supreme knowledge about the divine. So once you have this definite divine knowledge about your divine nature, then you will be rooted in that and then live your life and execute your actions. While the others who are living without, just like a log of wood tossed in the ocean. You know, in the ocean, if you have a log of wood, it gets tossed about all over the place. So here also these people who don't have this definite purpose in life to realize their divine nature, they get tossed about in the world like a log of wood floating in the waters. And Bahushaka hi Anantascha, and they have got various types of desire patterns. And it is endless, Anantaha. If you ask a person, what are your desires, he'll give you a big list. A very big list. Anantascha. There were two young men who wanted to get a shortcut. You know, in India, they are very famous in trying to seek shortcuts for whatever purpose. It doesn't take place, but they want to. So they said, let us now propitiate Lord Vishnu. And when Vishnu comes, we'll ask him all our demands. So we don't have, so we let us. So accordingly, Vishnu appeared and one person has prepared all his demands, all his wishes. So Vishnu said, all right, you can have it. He does not know what he is into. The other fellow thought, well, I have got my list, but there are many things I have missed in this. So other person was a little wiser. He said, well, give me a frame of mind wherein I don't have these wishes anymore. So once you acquire this frame of mind, wherein you don't have these desire wishes anymore, you are at peace. All your wishes have been fulfilled. You have further need for it at all. So therefore, the ones who are desire written in life, so ananta, so buddhi, and their mind is so abhyavasayanam, it has not got a definite intellect, huh? A definite conclusion about living life. It is not focused on the divine. Then with respect to these people who have not got their attention directed towards the Atman, their divine nature, there is a category of human beings, huh? Especially in the Hindu structure, it is very beautifully enumerated in the next 3 verses. There's another category of individuals who resort to fulfill their desires by peculiar methods, by strange methods mentioned in the Vedas. So that he is mentioning in the next 3 verses. Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschitaha vedavada rataha partha na anyat asti iti vadinaha kamatmanaha swargapara janma karma palapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishvarya gatim prati bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya apakrita chetasam vivasayatmika buddhihi samadau na vidiyate. So that means for those people who do not have this definite resolve and a definite understanding about the science of karma yoga, in which their mind is resolved and stabilized and in the Atman, which is Brahman indeed, their mind is stabilized in Brahman, focused in Brahman. Huh? So they are definitely, for those people whose minds are not so resolved in their divine nature, vivasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidiyate. Such a type of definite understanding does not transpire in their mind. Samadho na vidiyate. In their antakarana, in their mind, it does not transpire. And these people will not have the ability to settle down in the Atman. Who are these people? That is, now this was the last line that I am, of the 3 verses, the 6th line I am mentioning it. Now the previous 5 lines of this, I am going to explain what it is. Who are those people for whom such a spiritual, God-focused, God-centered mind does not transpire? Who are those people? What category of people are they? So that is being mentioned now in the earlier section of these verses. Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschitaha vedavada rataha. O Partha, vedavada rataha. In the Vedas, those who revel in the Vedas. Now understand this very carefully. There are the Vedas in the Indian structure. There is the Upanishads. There is the Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Sutras. Now of these, the scriptures of the Hindus is said to be Prasthanatraya, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutras, but not the Vedas. It doesn't include the Vedas into that picture at all, because the subject matter of the Vedas is different. The Vedas deal with a different subject matter altogether. It doesn't deal with moksha or enlightenment. The Vedas, they deal with worldly pleasures, worldly enjoyments, how to further your worldly pleasure, ambitions, your worldly bhogas, enjoyments. And that is the theme and the subject matter of the Vedas. So that's a totally a different section altogether. Huh? So therefore, it is not considered as the basic scripture of the Hindus, which is said to be the Upanishads, Brahma Sutra, and the Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, who are these people? Veda Vada Rataha, who dwell in the Veda Vada, in the words of the Vedas. In the words, Veda Vada Rat, they take delight and want to fulfill, want to execute, want to perform those practices which are mentioned in the Vedas. And what and in what way? Yam imam pushpitam vacham. And these Vedas, they talk to you sweet words. If you do this, you will go to heavens. If you do that, you may get that. If you do this, you will get that. So it's all to cater to your desire patterns, to your desires, to your lower desires. So the Vedas are catering to your human desires. That is why it is not considered to be the scripture of the Hindus in the proper sense of the term. It has got another category altogether. It has got another category because the subject matter is worldly pleasures. It's worldly pleasures. People don't understand that. They don't realize that. So, and yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti, and it talks about beautiful words and pushpitam and sweet language, that if you perform this ritual, the Vedas entice you to perform various rituals. If you do these rituals, you will go to the heavens. If you do this ritual, you will get that. You will obtain this prosperity. That worldly desires will be fulfilled. So it's all catering to your desire patterns. It's catering to your desire patterns. So, and pravadanti avipaschitaha. And avipaschitaha means, vipaschitaha means the persons who are wise. Avipaschitaha is the unwise. So those people who revel in the language and the subject matter and the substance of the Vedas are said to be unwise people. And not only that, in the Mundaka Upanishad, the word which has been referred to these people is mudaha. The word mudaha has been used. Mudaha means fools. These are fools. These are spiritual fools who resort to the words and the practice contained there. So it's not I am who am saying this. It is the Upanishads are mentioning this in outright terms, in very clear language. In the Katha Upanishad and in the Mundaka Upanishad, very clearly it's stated. And it says, the blind leading the blind, and both fall into the ditch. So, andena niyamanaha, led by the blind, both of them fall into the ditch. The ditch of samsara, the ditch of worldly existence. That is the ditch, you both fall into. The ditch of worldly existence. You want to come out of it, here they are putting you into it. Because this is a great ditch indeed, the world, living in the world. So therefore, these are those types of people who eulogize the words of the Vedas with sweet language, they sweet talk to you, and you get caught in it. Pushpitam pravadanti avipaschitaha. So they are unwise people who are said to be mudas, the fools, the spiritual fools. And what are their hearts filled with? So the next verse says, kamatmanaka, full of desires. They're an embodiment of desires, never satisfied. So these people who go into these Vedic practices are never satisfied. Kamatmana, full of desires, full of worldly desires. They want this, they want that. So their desire patterns are endless. Surgapara, and they want to go to the heavens. There are no shortcuts to heaven. Because God has formulated certain rules by which you are to live your life. And those who perform their duties and functions in the world in a righteous manner are eligible, will be taken up there. So there are no quick cuts or shortcuts. By performing these things, it's not a question that you can't buy heavens. Can you buy heavens? It's like buying a position, buying a journey to the heavens. Can you buy it? And that's what these texts are doing. The Vedic text, which deals with those sections which tell you to go to the heavens, are dealing with that section, as if you can perform those rituals and buy your way to heavens. So Kamatmana, they are full of desires, Surgaparaha. And once you know what heavens is, you will not even care to go there, because after all, what is happening in the heavens? You get a little better food than what you get here. A little better quality of things than what you have here. That's all. So you enjoy normal life with your five senses. There also, it's a little better. That's all that you get there. Nothing more than that. Surga para janma karma pala pradam. And by performing these ritualistic acts, so it will give you a janma or a birth in the heavenly regions. That's what these people say. And kriya vishesha bahula, and they do so many ritualistic kriya vishesha, and it's all based on what? On performing various types of rituals. So they entice you to fulfill your desire patterns. At great cost. Kriya vishesha bahulam. And all for what? Bhoga aishwarya gatim prati. All for bhoga, for enjoyments, aishwarya, for glory. Just for this purpose. That these Vedas are mentioning to you. So, and then he says, Bhoga aishwarya prasaktanam taya aparhuda chetasam. And for those people who are said to be Taya apahrita chetasam, whose hearts have been captured. Taya, by these eulogizing words found in the Vedas. And what else does it say? Veda vada rataha partha na anyat asti iti. There is nothing other than this pleasures, other than going to heavens. There is nothing other than that. Na anyat. Na anyat asti iti. That means don't think about moksha or enlightenment. That situation does not come into the picture. Nor does God come into the picture. They don't talk about the divine. So, na anyat. As far as they are concerned, Ishvara, the divine, doesn't come into the picture at all. Neither does a man's wish to attain moksha or liberation or enlightenment. Even that is not mentioned. That doesn't come into the picture at all. So they say, openly they say, no, anyat, apart from the performance of these Vedic rites, there is nothing else other than that. Nothing else other than what? Other than this, like the Ishvara, the divine, or liberation. Or liberation. So, therefore, Lord Krishna is very clearly opening out in these three words, in these three verses, the tragedy of being involved in this Vedic practices and rites indeed. For such a people, Vivasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidiyate. That is to say, the mind, firmly resolved mind, does not transpire for them to get into samadhi. Samadho na vidiyate. To get into the practice, the meditative practice by which to be established in the Atman, such a mind does not transpire for them in their antakarana or in their mind. Wherein you can resolve your mind in the Atman. Samyak adiyate chittam anaya iti. That means you very well establish your chittam, your mind in the Atman. Such an ability does not transpire for them. Or the other way to put it, in their minds, antakarane, such a noble aspiration does not transpire. For those people who are desire-ridden and who wish to go through their desire-patterned life enjoined in the Vedic structure. Therefore, in verse number 54, or 45, verse number 45, he outlines, but therefore, that being the case, that is a situation, that being the case, what should you do? So he is mentioning the character of the Vedas. What is the character and the theme of the Vedas? Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna, Nirdvando Nitya Sattvasto, Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Now he is opening out even more elaborate, he is even more elaborating the theme and the subject matter of the Vedas. Traigunya Vishaya. The Vedas deal with only empirical matters, with matters pertaining to the three gunas, Traigunya, three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. These are the three gunas of it, which go to constitute nature. Nature as such, Mother Nature as such is constituted. Prakriti is another word for nature. Prakriti as such is constituted of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So the Vedas deal with only this. It doesn't deal with the Atman or Brahman or your divine nature. So the theme and the subject matter of the Vedas is a very worldly thing. It's Vishaya. It deals with your worldly matters, your worldly desires. Therefore, that being the case, O Arjuna, Nistray Gunyo Bhava Arjuna, O Arjuna, become free, Nistray Gunya, become indifferent. Nistray Gunyo Bhava. So now he is giving an injunction. And what is that injunction? To become indifferent to the Vedas. Nistray Gunyo Bhava Arjuna. Because it deals with the three gunas, the Vedas. Therefore, you do not get enticed into the Vedic structure at all. Because it deals with these worldly matters indeed. Then we will see the balance of this verse tomorrow, because it's another section which is coming into the sea. And Om Tat Sat.